Hi everyone, right, welcome to another video where I talk about darts. I thought this would be a really good opportunity to kind of do a roundup, a review of the World Championships itself. What were the good games that we watched? What were the best moments? Who were the big winners of the tournament? Who were maybe the losers potentially in the tournament as well? Um, and didn't just give my overall thoughts on what I thought about the tournament and was it a good tournament or not, basically. Also, I'd love to hear from you guys as well on it. Like, what were your thoughts about the World Championships? We saw 95 matches in total. Was it up to the standards that you expected? Did it exceed your expectations? Let me know in the comments. Was it actually the first time you've ever seen the World Championships as well? I appreciate that people may have not watched darts before, and this is the first time they've actually watched it and really enjoyed it. So let me know if that was the case as well. I've been watching darts now for blimey, probably a good 25 years now. Probably since the year 2000, since my mum and dad got Sky Sports all that time ago, and I've been hooked ever since. But yeah, just let me know what you thought, and I'll give you my views on it as well. And then to round off, we've got the announcement of the Premier League darts coming very, very soon on Monday evening. So I wanted to give you kind of my thoughts around what I think is going to happen, what that lineup's going to look like, because we don't know the full lineup. We know half of the lineup, but who are going to get the remaining spots, and kind of give you my best guesses, I suppose, as to who I think is going to make it. But also, look, guys, in the comments as well, if you've got your views and opinions, please leave them there. Tell me who you think should make the final eight. But we'll get to that later. Let's kick on with the review and the roundup of the championships. As we all know, Luke Littler become world champion on Friday evening, beating Michael Van Gerwen by 7 sets to 3. He became the youngest world champion ever, beating actually Michael Van Gerwen's record where he become world champion at the age of 25. He absolutely smashed it. He's now 17 years old, just about to turn 18, I think later this month potentially. Um, but overall, I think he was a deserving winner, and he was a comprehensive winner, really, especially in the latter rounds, where he dominated against Stephen Bunting in that semi-final, winning 6-1, and then he kind of took the game away from Michael Van Gerwen. I felt in the final, got a far too healthy a lead, going 4-0 up in that one. Obviously, Van Gerwen managed to make it 4-1. We did start to see a more kind of consistent Van Gerwen, a more dangerous Van Gerwen. His averages started creeping up and up, but by then it was too little too late, you felt. And Littler got the job done pretty easily without really, I felt, being totally spectacular. I think many may have expected him to do it. I think many expected maybe a closer game. I certainly thought that could happen. I thought Van Gerwen might ruffle his feathers a little bit and get some early sets, early doors to maybe put him under pressure. Didn't pan out like that. Darts can be a funny game, I think, especially in longer formats where if one player's just not at it early doors, it can take a while for them to get going. And I think it did for Van Gerwen, unfortunately for him. But overall, I think Littler's going to be pleased. And look, he's accomplished what he set out to do. And I mean, look, he's played 2 world championships now. He's only lost 1 game in the 2 championships that he's played. And dare I say it, is he set for a period of dominance now? Possibly. I kind of don't know if I want him to do that or not. Um, on one hand, you do want a player that's kind of like he's the one to beat, he's the main guy. But at the same time, it's always good to have maybe a collection of players that can have a realistic chance. And maybe we'll just have to see whether others will step up potentially. Will Michael Van Gerwen maybe kick on a little bit more now? Will Luke Humphries look at a disappointing tournament and he go again effectively? I'm looking at players who I think are capable of it. Gerwin Price, can he find some more form? I thought he had actually a decent enough tournament at this World Championships, considering he was pretty much written off for any sort of hope that he had for winning this title. I felt pre-tournament, but yeah, overall, look, Littler won. I don't think it was a big surprise for everyone, and he's now going to be the favourite to win next year. He's going to be the favourite to win pretty much every tournament that he's going. Understandably, it'll be interesting to see if he can keep it up and whether he turns 18 and things start changing for him a little bit. You know what it's like? Turn 18, find the booze as a legal thing to do now, and just, I don't know. I'm clutching at straws potentially with that. I think he's got a good. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, and I think he's got a very, very shrewd management team behind him that's going to keep him on the straight and narrow because obviously he's an absolute moneymaker for them also. But look, yeah, as I say, Littler was the big winner, of course. There were, I felt, other winners in the tournament. I felt Michael Van Gerwen, I would class him as a winner, even though he lost in the final. I thought he had a tournament where he got to the final. I think he proved a few doubters wrong. I think he proved to himself that he's still one of the main guys. I think he knew he was one of the main guys, but ultimately getting to a final kind of cements that as well. On another day, it might have been a closer final potentially than it actually ended up being. But he did pull up a good fight in the end. He didn't let him go and win 7-0, which you did fear at one point that could have happened. But I felt Van Gerwen, I think he can come out of the tournament with a lot of credit, and people may be thinking about him a little bit more in terms of his chances of maybe winning competitions in 2025. Other winners, I'm going to say Stephen Bunting was a winner. I think, even though I was disappointed with him in the semi final, I think to get to the semi finals proves that he's a top class player, um, proves that he's he's well worthy being number 5 in the world for me. I also think he's almost certainly cemented his place into the Premier League, which I said I'm going to talk about later, but I'm pretty sure he's going to make the Premier League lineup now off of the back of that. I mean, I think he had a good chance beforehand, but I think just having a good run at the Worlds does you the world of good in cementing your place when I think there's still quite a few places up for grabs potentially there. Callum Ritz, definitely a winner for me. Come out of nowhere, I felt this year, in the sense that no one expected him to do anything. Look, we've seen him in the past at World Championships and other tournaments, years gone by, showing that he's a talent. But I think this year, I think he proved to himself that he's a guy that can really be a force. And look, I think there's an opportunity for Ritz to maybe this year break properly into that top 32 and maybe even further in, maybe into the top 16. I actually think he's got the talent to be a top 10 player, truthfully, and you never know. I think we saw enough of Ritz to show that he's a top class player, exciting player to watch, and I think he was a real winner in this World Championships. Ryan Joyce, I'm going to put him in the winners category. I still can't believe this guy is not a top 32 player. He should be a top 16 player. I think he's that good. I think he gets a bit unlucky against opponents. I think he was a little bit unlucky against Luke Littler, but he gave him a heck of a game. And I think he can hold his head up high, and I think he can prove to himself in 2025 as well that he could have a big season. And I would not be surprised if he puts his name on a major potentially this year. I really wouldn't. And then the last kind of winner I think that needs an honourable mention is, of course, Peter Wright. I probably predicted him to lose every game that he played this tournament. I didn't think he would win. Well, I didn't fancy him in the second round game, but then when I saw Wesley Placier play his first round match, I kind of fancied Wright to win that one. So I did get that one. But I thought afterwards, I thought he was going to struggle a bit. But he got better and better. And look, the performance against Luke Humphries really showed that he's still got game and he's still a little bit life left in Snakebite. Obviously, it was a disappointing defeat in the end in the quarterfinals for him. But it is what it is. I think Peter Wright feels like a winner in this tournament for me. And he might persuade a few who are organising the Premier League darts to maybe consider putting him in. Again, I'll talk about that later, but I don't think his chances are completely dead in actually making the Premier League lineup on Monday evening. But yeah, for me, I think he was a winner. I think in terms of losers, I mean, most people will say the majority of the players are losers because they didn't get to where they thought they would go. But I think there's players, I don't kind of believe that. I think certain players will look at it and go, I should be at least getting to X round in the tournament or that far in the tournament. And I think there was a few that will feel pretty let down. The likes of Mike De Decker, for example, who come into this tournament as I wouldn't say he was a favourite, but he was in the top 5, maybe top 6 in the betting. coming off winning the match play, and I think him having a decent tournament would have definitely guaranteed him a spot in the Premier League as well. I think because he went out in the second round, there might be question marks potentially. I don't know. Again, we'll talk about that later. But I think I think he would be one of the losers for me. Gary Anderson, another one, brilliant season, highest average throughout the year out of all of the players, but then gets knocked out. Played a bit cold, didn't he, against Jeffrey de Graaf in the second round. He'll be disappointed. And also, look, we don't know how many opportunities Gary Anderson is going to give himself of winning a World Championships. I felt this year I thought he could have got to the final. I really do, and I think he's one of the very few players on his day can cope with Luke Littler. But it didn't happen, did it? Rob Cross, well, number 4, he went out early doors against Scott Williams again. I mean, look, don't get me wrong, that was a hard second round game to get, but he'll be disappointed that he went out that early as well. And I think there'll be question marks over a couple of the younger players, Gian Van Veen in particular. That's 2 World Championships now where he's come into this a favourite to win his game. I'm not saying favourite to win the tournament, but favourite to win his game and someone who could maybe go through the rounds and be a danger. Still hasn't won a game on the Ali Pali stage. That'll be something that I think we need to look at maybe next year. I think that's a big pressure for him to win one because now it's 2 games now, 2 games where he would have expected to win. He didn't. So for me, I think that was a disappointing thing for him. Just go through my little list below. Just remind me, I'm Michael Smith. Terrible 2024. It's been a terrible kind of 18 months, 2 years for him, really. He's now world number 16. I don't know where to go with Michael. I think he's a player that's going to need to find some form at some point in 2025 to turn this around. He's capable. He's certainly capable. I'm not writing him off yet. I'm certainly not writing off, but it was not good. And look, he played against Kevin Dotes, who had something to prove, I think, against him in that second round, trying to revenge the game they had the year before where Smith just got over line against him. But he's another one. Ross Smith will be disappointed to be knocked out early doors as well by Paolo Nebreda. I've fancied Ross to maybe have an opportunity to. I mean, he was in that same section as Anderson and Van Gerwen, but I think his game is good enough at times to beat that sort of calibre of player. So for me, I think he was a disappointment. On the same thing as Van Veen, I forgot about him, is Wessel Neiman. I think a lot of people expected big things from him. I wasn't quite sure, if I'm honest. I was open at the beginning. I thought lots of people putting serious money on him to go far in this tournament, but I wasn't quite convinced that this is the right time for him just yet, but it is what it is. And then lastly, the only name I've got on is James Wade. I do wonder with Wadey, I think his time's done in terms of any chance of winning a world championship now. I still think he can win tournaments, believe it or not. Although I think they become a bit limited, but he'll be very disappointed that he went out early. I know he had a tough draw against Jermaine Wattimena, but to get done the way he did as well wasn't great. We'll see with Wade. I'm not sure we'll see too much. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see too much more of James Wade. I just get that impression. I could be wrong, but I've got a feeling Wade might be thinking about maybe packing it in soon. I just didn't feel it's too up and down for him. You just never know what James Wade you're going to get in these tournaments, and it'll be another World Championships where it didn't go for him. Will he go again next year? Probably, most likely, but I think it's safe to say that I think Wade. I just think this World Championships is just going to elude him, and I don't think it's ever going to happen, unfortunately, for himself. So yeah, they're my winners and losers. Guys, let me know what you think of that. Do you agree with what I'm saying in terms of? Do you agree with the people that I think are the winners of this tournament, or the people that have come out with credit? Have I missed anyone in particular that you think deserves a mention? And also, is anyone I've not mentioned in kind of the loser category or the player that had had a disappointing tournament? There's probably others in there, I suppose, but they felt like the real main ones to me when kind of looking back at all of the games in the past. So, yeah, we'll move on from that, I think, from this point. I mentioned best moments. I think before I get to best moments, I want to get to my general feeling about this tournament. Um, and I came away, to be honest with you, I felt like this a bit way before maybe the quarterfinals, actually. Um, I come away thinking this was a little bit of an underwhelming tournament, truth be told. I know, look, I love the World Championships. It's not only my favourite darting event of the year, it's probably one of my favourite sporting events of the year. It's certainly in the top three that I love to watch. And look, I'm someone who loves watching football, golf, American football, you name it, anything, right? I will watch all the big sporting events, but it is a top three event, maybe even a top two event for me in the year. And I felt like this one was just, I don't think it was as good as previous years. I've got to be honest. I don't think we saw enough drama. I think a lot of the games either went to how they kind of they went with the player we thought would win, but they kind of went a bit too easily for the player. So if you think about the semi-finals and the finals in particular, I don't think we particularly saw great two. I thought we saw two very average semi-finals, and I don't think we saw a brilliant final. It won't be a. It'll be remembered because it's Luke Littler's first, and it'll be remembered because he's the youngest ever player to win it. And it's a groundbreaking moment for the sport and sport in general. But in terms of an entertaining game, like they both averaged over 100. They both played well, but it was an exciting game. Littler took the game away from MVG early doors, and then he was kind of playing for scratch. But you never really felt Michael van Gerwen had any real chance of getting back into the match. And it was the same with the semi-finals. They weren't great. They weren't very one-sided. You're kind of opening a very deep back end of the tournament. We get real competitive matches that can go either the distance or a fair distance, and we never saw that. And even in the quarterfinals, there was one brilliant quarterfinal game. In terms of like, and it's in my top five matches, and that was the Callum Ritz versus Michael van Gerwen game. That was phenomenal, brilliant match. But we didn't see enough of that. So for me, there was too many one-sided games. I didn't think there was enough drama in a lot of the matches, if truth be told. Um, I think the one thing I'd say that has improved is I think we don't see an easy game anymore for anyone in terms of from a early rounds perspective. The non-seeded players are so good now. Even we had like, and one of my favourite moments of the tournament was Rashad Sweetin's game against Jeffrey de Graaf, because I think Sweetin was given absolute no hope to do anything in that game against the Graf. I think people thought that the Graf would probably win that 3-0 and 9-0 as well. But the fact that he won a set, and he should have gone 2-0 up in that game as well, and he hit obviously a famous 180 where I think he left himself double free just for shits and giggles, basically, because the crowd goaded him into it. Just shows you that he was the lowest ranked player in the tournament. And yet he's a danger, caused a problem, and he caused a problem against a guy that ended up actually going pretty decent, like pretty far into the tournament. Um, so look, I don't think it was the best quality of tournament. I still think it was an entertaining tournament. I think if you've watched it for the first time, I think you would have enjoyed it. But trust me, I think there will be better tournaments and world championships to come. I think we want to see a bit more drama. I don't think all of the best players played their best stuff. Look, Humphries being one in particular. I said Gary Anderson as well. I expected more from him. The Decker, like some big players went out early. I think that kind of killed maybe some big matchups that we might have seen in some of the earlier and later rounds potentially, because we want players to grow into the tournament. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that in terms of my thoughts on it. In terms of best moments, I think, look, there was loads of great moments. As I said, Rashad Sweetin was one. We had two nine darters. We had the Heta nine darter. But for me, I think the best nine darter by far was Christian Kiss nine darter. Just because I think it was early doors. No one expected it. But I tell you what, he was never missing. Like, it felt like, in a way, as it was happening, it felt so nailed on that he was going to hit that nine darter Christian Kiss. And it was obviously the first one of the tournament, which meant it was all the excitement around the prize money that was going to be given out. And apparently Christian Kiss didn't even know that he was going to win money for hitting that nine darter. But he ended up trousering 60 grand in the end for it. Obviously, 60 grand went to the crowd, and 60 grand went to the charity prostate cancer as well. So look, I thought that was my favourite moment. It was other silly moments like Barry from EastEnders turning up, singing to the crowd. That was a bit of fun. The guy dressed up as a hot dog, down in a jug. Apparently, I think it was. And Aspinall stopped and watched him. I mean, I clipped that up on TikTok, by the way, and I think it's had about almost 700,000 views. So it was pretty popular. But they were kind of like favourite best moments. But I think pure darting. If you look at pure darts, I think it was Christian Kistner dart was the biggest highlight for me. That was the biggest buzz watching that and seeing it. Heta was a big buzz as well, but I think because it was the first one, I'm going to give it to Damon Heta. So look, overall, I think that kind of, for me, let's just round up the World Championship fault. So for me, look, overall, I don't think it was the best World Championships. I don't think it was the worst World Championships. Also, on another note, a couple of things actually stayed intact. The record for the amount of 180s in the tournament in total, that never got broken in the end. I think it finished on 907. I can't remember if the records... I don't think it was far off the record, but I think because the games went on, like they were quite short semi-final finals, it's probably killed the record for that. And it also killed Luke Littler's chance of maybe hitting the most 180s in a tournament. Michael Smith still holds that record with 83. Littler come up short in the end. I can't remember what his number was, but he didn't reach. He needed 20. I can't remember if he got into the like low teens, I think, of 180s in the final against Michael Van Gerwen in the end. So that's another record that stays and will be aimed to be beaten maybe next year. And I think if Littler maybe had a bit of a closer game in the semi-final and maybe in the final, there's a good chance he would have broken it. But he ran away with it. I don't think he's going to care too much. He is the champion. He also is the Ballon d'Or winner, the one with the most 180s in the tournament, which Paddy Power created as well. So well done to him. But yeah, look, overall, it was an all right tournament. Weren't the best. Expecting more. Hopefully, we'll see some of the big guns perform better next year and within 2025 itself. So let's move on. Let's take a moment. Let's move on to the Premier League. Now, the Premier League darts starts in February, early February. For those who don't know what the Premier League darts is and you're watching this, I'm sure most of you watching have got a fair idea. But for those who don't, it's a league. It's a round robin league. If it's the way to explain, where it's normally contested between the 8 best players in darts, not necessarily the 8 players that are ranked from World 1 to 8, but the 8 biggest names, I think, or the 8 players that are playing the best darts currently at the moment. But anyway, it is 8. I'm kind of repeating myself here, but again, 8 players in a league format, but they play each week in a different venue around the UK and Europe, in big venues, big events, and it's a round robin knockout basically. So 8 players, there'll be 4 matches. The winner of each of them matches go into a semi-final, and then the semi-final winners will go into a final. There's also points up for grabs. So if you win your first round game, you're guaranteed, I believe, 2 points, I think it is. If you win, so it's 2 points for the winners of the first 4 games, or the losers in the semi-final, actually, if that makes sense. The winners, then the runner-up gets 3 points, and the winner gets 5 points. I hope I've explained that well. I feel like I haven't. Let me do that again. The winner gets 5 points for the night. The runner-up gets 3 points, and the 2 losing semi-finalists get 2. The losers in the first games get 0. I think that's the best way to explain it. So that is what it is, and it's contested over, I think, 16 weeks. And then I think there's a 17th week, which is the final, if I've got my numbers right in there, basically. So it's a big, big tournament. Loads of prize money to be won. And yeah, it's a big money maker and a big opportunity for the very best in darts to do it. Now, in terms of the lineup, there is, as I said, there's 8 players that are going to be in it. 4 are guaranteed. So the 4 are guaranteed are the top 4 players ranked in the world. And that currently is Luke Humphries, Luke Littler, Michael Van Gerwen, and Rob Cross. So them 4 are guaranteed to play at this year's Premier League darts. So there's 4 other spaces up for grabs. And as I said, it's not necessarily the players ranked world number 5, world number 6, world number 7, world number 8 that get it, right? They will look across the board to see who they think is going to be a good fit for what is a bit of a showpiece event for darts between the months of February and May in the calendar year. For example, Luke Littler got in last year and he wasn't in. I don't even think he was in the top 32. He might have just crept into the top 32 potentially, but he wasn't in the top 10, top 16 in the world. They took a chance with him. They brought him in, and they've done that with other players as well in the past. So it is open. But let's try and talk through maybe what I think the lineup could be. Now, as I said, we already know the four: Littler, Humphreys, Van Gerwen, and Rob Cross. I think number 5 will go to Stephen Bunting. I think him getting to the semi-finals, being very solid, consistent player, a fan favourite. Like, I think that comes into it quite a bit. Is fans, there's going to be plenty of casual dart fans that want to see players they've heard of as well. And I think Stephen Bunting's in that category now. He wasn't in it last year. He'll be in it this year. I'm absolutely certain. He's well number 5. I think he deserves it. I think that's nailed on for him to be 5. The 6 spot, 6, 7, and 8 spot, I think are trickier. So in the world rankings, if I remember this rightly, I think Dave Chisnell's number 6. I think Johnny Clayton's number 7. I think who's number 8? I'm not sure. I know Gerwin Price is either 8 or 9. Chris Dobie's 10. Who am I missing? Am I missing the? Oh, Damon Hare. I think it is. So I think it's actually. So 5's Bunting, 6 is Chisnell, 7's Clayton. I think Hare's 8, Price is 9, Dobie is 10. And then you've got players like Mike De Decker, who's won a world match play earlier this year. You've got Peter Wright, who has been there for so many years. He might have a chance. Nathan Aspinall is another one. Big fan favourite. Look, got to the quarterfinals of this year's tournament. I think they've all got a chance. I think the ones who definitely won't be there. So we'll come to these final 3 in a moment. The ones I'm going to rule out straight away. Gary Anderson. I think he should be there. I think he'd be so good if he was there, but he doesn't want to be there. So he won't be there because he doesn't want to be there. So he won't be in it, I don't believe, unless something miraculous happens in the background that we have not been aware of. I don't think he makes it. I don't think Michael Smith makes it this year. He's well number 16 now. He's obviously been a player that's been part of the Premier League and the elite of darts for a while, but he's out of form. I don't think he makes it. I don't think players like Josh Rock are going to make it. I don't think Ryan Searle's going to make it. I know he's someone who's in and around there. James Wade, no. So I'm just trying to think if I'm missing anyone obvious that people go, well, what about them? What about them? People might talk about Callum Ritz. Too little. Look, he had a brilliant World Championships. I think he needs another year to maybe prove himself, to maybe be considered someone that could be in the Premier League. Great talent. I think it'd be amazing if we saw the Ritz that we saw in the World Championships. Absolutely, I'd love to see him play week in, week out. I don't think that's going to happen. Just having to think, really. I think they feel like the obvious players that Danny Noppert. I think he's in and around the sort of top 16. For me, no, I don't think he's going to be there. Which is unfortunate. So for me, it comes down to 3 places between Chisnell. I think it becomes between Chisnell, Clayton, Price, Aspinall, Heta, Dobie. So that's 6. I would probably rule out Johnny Clayton, believe it or not. I just don't know if Johnny Clayton. I'm not sure if Johnny Clayton's going to make it. I know he's I think he's well number 7. I just don't feel like he's going to be in that lineup. I've got a feeling for Gerwin Price. I think Gerwin Price might get spot number 6. It's a big name. I think he played well enough in the World Championships to remind people that he's still got game. The only thing that will make me believe he won't get there is if he doesn't want it. He's kind of said in the past that he doesn't enjoy being on the road as much with the Premier League, and It's not his favourite tournament, but I think he won't pass up the opportunity to be there, and I think he might be there going Price. So I'm going to give Price number 6, and then it comes down to spots 7 and 8, which leaves Dave Chisnall, it leaves Mike De Decker, it leaves Damon Heta, and it leaves for me maybe Chris Dobey. Um, I think, Jesus, I think number 7. Oh my God, he's really hard, isn't it? Because there's cases for everyone. I think they might give Mike De Decker a chance. He didn't have a good World Championships, obviously, he got knocked out early, but winning the World Match Play, and he was just outside the kind of favourites, I think, to win the tournament this year. I think he could. I think they might have a pop with him, and I think they want someone from mainland Europe, maybe represent. Apart from Michael van Gerwen, of course, I think they would want another man in there. I don't think another one I forgot about is Dimitri Van den Bergh. I don't think he gets there either, but I think they may look at the Decker and go, he could attract a crowd in Europe, especially in like places like Berlin and things like that. I think the Decker could get in there. So I'm going to go the Decker. So I'm going to go with Bunting, the Decker, and Price. And the last spot between Heta, Dobey, and Chisnall. I think, I think it's really tough. I think there's been a lot of talk about Damon Heta. Enough talk about Damon Heta to maybe think that he's an entertainer. And I think that's what might get him in is the fact that he's a very good darts player as well. But I think he's very entertaining. He'll bring something different to that tournament, I think. And I think organisers might look at that and go, yeah, he could be someone that might just. I don't want to say ruffle feathers, but I think he's the type that could actually ruffle feathers. I'm going to go with Heta. I think Heta might get the final spot. Look, I think it's a real close call between 4 or 5 of them for a couple of spots. As I said, I think Bunting's an absolute certainty, and I think Price is not far off. But there's a number of them, as I said, Clayton, Chisnall, Dobey, Heta, Aspinall, and the Decker. I've got two out of 6 players there. I think that could easily make it. And I don't know if you'd have too many arguments. There'll always be arguments saying, "Oh, so and so should be there," but yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. Or and I forgot about Pete. Well, Peter Wright, I don't think was going to be there anyway. Or is it going to be Chris Dobey? Do they need someone from the north of the country to kind of root for? I don't. I always look at demographics and geographics and like geographical. Where does it make? Who does it make sense to put in there? Maybe Chris Dobey makes sense because he's a man from the northeast. They will have a crowd in Newcastle. Scotland won't be too far. I don't know. I'm clutching at straws, obviously here, but if I'm going to have a guess at the final 8, I'm going to go with, as I said, it will be Luke Humphries, Luke Littler, Michael van Gerwen, Rob Cross, Stephen Bunting, Gerwin Price, Mike De Decker, and Damon Heta. And I think unless Gerwin Price doesn't fancy it, then I don't know. I genuinely don't know. This is really, really difficult to predict. Guys, what do you think? I don't know. I think I'm confident on at least 6. I really do. I think the other 2 places is up for grabs. Really is, and it'll be so interesting to see what they announce on Monday evening on this. But look, let me know what you think. And I think I'm going to wrap up with that. Basically, that is my thoughts on the Premier League. That was also my thoughts earlier with World Championships. I hope you enjoyed I hope you've enjoyed the darts over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I certainly have. It's certainly made me want to do more content around darts. I love doing it around this time of the year. I always plan to maybe do stuff around the Premier League and other big tournaments that happen, and I never quite find the time to do it. I'm gonna make the time to do more content around darts because I think it's interesting for me. I love doing it. Look, and as you might see on my channel here, I will talk about other sports as well. We'll talk about football, which might confuse some people that come in for darts and go, "Why is he talking about football?" Well, look, I love loads of sports. My channel is all about talking about different sports that are happening all the time. Football will be part of it. Darts will be part of it. Believe it or not, I think golf will be into it. I'm sure I'm going to do stuff around American football and the playoffs potentially. Um, you name it, I'll probably end up having a chat about it. But I will promise you I'll do more content around darts through the year. I won't just leave it to the World Championships. I will try and do stuff through the calendar year, and give more of a proper build up, I suppose, into maybe next year's World Championships for you. But look, I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you are watching and you like this kind of content, please subscribe. It helps me massively. And I'll speak to you soon, guys.